So, the good old topic, change. It's a good old topic because speaking about change doesn't change. We always speak about that. Does it mean that change is the new normal? I think change has always been there in the, let's take the evolution of humanity. It's very clear that things are changing all the time. As the weather is changing, so people have to adapt. Civilization are destroyed because of climate change, because of situational change, because of hunger, because of sickness. Simply take the example I used, or one of the moment in my youth where I was inspired to lead, or by leader, let's say first, was Julius Caesar, who was not staying in the back during a battle, but when he saw that there was a weakness in his ranks, took a sword and a shield and went to fight with his men in front of the battle and change the tide of the battle. At least this is what is written. That's one moment where he made a change. It's very, very simple, very short change, but it changed something. So that's one of the change. Let's take the evolution of warring. I don't want to be negative here, but people will probably know when this has been taken, when they look at this podcast in 15 years. Maybe not. Maybe the way of podcasting will be so different, and nobody will look at those type of podcasts anymore. So maybe change will already be impacting us, or will impact us at some point. But no, okay. Joke apart, the art of war, like they write or they say, which is basically terrible, but is always in evolution. A few years ago, we thought that big missiles and big infantry and big armies were important. Then World War I, World War II, different conflicts have taken place, guerrilla. So things are changing, people are adapting, strategies are adapting, and now we see that big missiles is not important because it's cost a lot of money to hedge against those missiles. So we create armies of drones that are sent almost every year on the enemies, and it's very difficult to fight against that because we were not prepared. So and why did that happen? Because a country was simply under pressure to develop a new strategy to adapt to defend itself or to attack other countries. I mean, I just don't want to do politics here. I just want to use this drastic change in the way wars were strategized and presented recently, and how that was impacted by creativity and ingenuity from some people to create a different angle, to create a competitive advantage. I mean, can we say that in a war? Maybe. Sadly, it's business and war is business war. Business is certainly competition, and very fierce competition. So let's use the term, yes. So change are happening sometimes willingly, sometimes unwillingly, but it's becoming some form of norm in almost everywhere. We see that with technology as well. About technology, again, people will probably know when this podcast was taken, because yesterday there was a big outcry about this electric Ferrari that's been presented. I'm not sure about that. That is a big change, I must say. That for me, seeing it from, I'm not a Ferrari driver, obviously. I'd love to. I don't know if I wanted to have that new one. The change is so drastic. The feeling is drastic. I mean, what do you buy when you buy a Ferrari? I would think that you buy prestige, you buy fun, you buy emotion, you buy the noise, you buy a way of life, you buy a nice weekend out, or but you get something, and it's about emotion. It's about something that's been there for such a long time. You buy the race, you buy so many things that are, on the emotional level much before any objective way of why would you buy a Ferrari. Although there's some objective way there as well, because if you buy a Ferrari, usually the value doesn't go down, it goes up. So sometimes it could be seen as an investment. But when I see this drastic change they've made, moving to electric cars, which basically is society is moving there, so why not? That's, you go with the flow, it's fine, I would say. Although you need to reinvent yourself, to create the emotions I mentioned before. And actually, they reinvented themselves. They created a lot of emotion, and it's probably too early now to say if that's a pivot into in the way sports car are designed and seen, etc. But what I see my emotion, when I see my emotion or the emotion I've seen on Insta or so, I don't think that it's very positive. So we'll see in the future. And let's be honest, it's not the first car, sports car, that a big brand, a designer brand like Ferrari, who is, very very specific design, shapes, and so on, is creating, and that some of them have been received well in the past, some of them have not been received well in the past. If you get a look or the chance to have a look at the 50s or the 60s at cars that were developed, I mean, let's be honest, not all of them were so lucky. Some of them were trend-setting, were not liked at the beginning, but became a brand. So let's see what's coming here. Now, looping back to insurance. Oh my God, from Ferrari to insurance, this is a big jump in terms of emotion, why you buy insurance and so on. And I'm going to just say one thing about talking about change here. What you buy when you buy an insurance contract, you buy not the product itself, you buy a chance or a security that you will have for your health or for your pension in the future, or if you buy, you have investment, you buy also there an environment that gives you a level of security, the possibility to do things with that contract, generation management, prepare for your pension, making sure that you have money in the long term. States are sometimes promoting those insurance, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the state doesn't have a pension system, or a very small pension system, and then insurance becomes necessary. Or states say, "Oh my God, that's very expensive in pension system, so maybe I should promote something else." And insurance is, because of the long term and the approach, is an industry of choice, where pension can be outsourced, or part of it at least. But there, you're buying security, and you need to have trust in the system. You buy this promise, and you need to trust that this promise will be there in 10, 15, 30, 40, 50 years. So you can't have a big change in the insurance industry. It's de facto the promise that an insurer is going to give. It cannot change. You can't change the promise. It's a commitment. You receive money as insurer, and you commit to do something. And that commitment is the hard product that you sell. It can be whatever insurance product, whatever what you insure. But this security, this promise cannot change. And the law, the states, the legislators in all the countries around the world have understood that. So that's why they create a set of laws. Of course, in Europe, we complain about the regulation, but make no mistake, the US regulations are not very funny either. And they also have two levels per state. And then at federal level, the Chinese legislation is very constraining, very strict. And by that, I mean that wherever you are, whatever the culture of a country is, the insurance element remains regulated. The industry is regulated. Distribution is sometimes a bit more, a bit less regulated, but all that regulation is there. So not only the insurance companies have understood that they need to be stable in the long term, but the states have also understood that. Now, once you understand this, and you can't change your promise, the way you deliver the promise, the way you create efficiency for your promise, the way you price your promise. If you're efficient, you can have the same promise as the next door insurer, but then cheaper, or with better service, with better transparency. So in insurance industry, there's a lot of changes. First, the law changes all the time because the environment changes and insurers need to adapt to their environment. So if you have insurance on paper like a long time ago, cyber risk, who cares, you know? But now cyber risk is part of what we as insurer need to hedge against. It's a risk. We need to quantify it. But because we all work with digital tools, then it's a very big risk. Therefore, legislations are there for us to monitor and prepare the action to prevent the risk, mitigation, but also to prepare in case such a risk is materialized, what do we do? And that's a change. The promise was not changed, but the way we protect our promise is in constant evolution. It's not big evolution, but it is there. So for us, the change is actually intentional. It exists at local and international level. It's even more important at international level because we monitor and we have to adapt on not one set of rules, but several sets of rules, which increases the risk. So it is very important for us that we are prepared to change. And we are constantly in that change. So how do we live that? Do we consider ourselves as a trend startup feeling funky industry that can just bing bang themselves into doing something new all the time? No. We don't feel like we change, but we actually are changing and adapting all the time. And that's very important. Whatever you do in an insurance company or when you develop a new element in your value chain to support something new, a new product, a new strategy, if you want to convince non-insurance stakeholders in the distribution, for instance, banks, family office, asset managers, then you need to do two things. Demonstrate that you change. Demonstrate that the changes are controlled. You need to internally for your own stakeholder also promote the change, but you cannot big bang your value chain completely. So the elements that are changing everywhere. Before doing the change, you need to prepare. You need to assess also where you are going to push for the change. Because if you change anything, whoa, you create an imbalance. And imbalance in insurance is a potential for a inability to deliver on one promise or part of the promise, which is something that we don't want to do. So the trust is built by creating the stability, but also accepting in that stability that there's going to be an element of change. And this element of change will be mastered at the end of the day. Insurance company, the insurance industry are the master of risk management. All the other industries do risk management, but we do risk management for all of them and for us at the same time. Even the US Army doesn't have a risk management department as strong as the one of the whole insurance industry at combined. So we do that, and within those constraints, constant change.